It's another anime season. I won't be talking about any of the heavy hitters in this video, from Lazarus to the beginning after the end, or even Witch Watch. Though, don't worry, I am watching those and countless others, so expect my thoughts of those later in the year. Instead, let's dive into some of those underrated anime gems that might have slipped past you. Rock is a lady's modesty. Think K-On!, but it's all rock in an all-girls school where their jam sessions allow us to see the real them, stripping away the facade that they must have to become ladies of high society. It's a blend of two genres, school and music. Our story is set in high society, where the new-to-money Lalisa is doing her best to be seen as a high-class woman. She attempts to push her emotions down to, in part, help her mother, who remarried in to this money. In effort to help her, she wants to achieve the title of Noble Maiden for the most aristocratic young lady in the school. This will show that she has made it in this society. However, her passion for rock music, given to her by her biological father, was reignited by the sounds from the old school building, where she meets the skilled drummer and highly respected lady of Otoha Kugugane, who shares her love for rock music. But at the core, this is a show that asks, what does it mean to be a lady, especially in high society? How can you build walls that never come down? Relax if you're always on edge, and freely express yourself when it feels like one slip up could mean your demise in social circles. But outside of its story, the sheer passion that this show has just oozes from out of the screen. The animation with the natural blend of CGI to the soundtrack and the voice acting. Every aspect has a lot of deep thought. Now, sure, if you don't like K-On!, you're probably not gonna like this. If you don't like Bocchi the Rock, you're really not the target market for this, but that's fine. You know now already. The music is shown to be an escape tool for these young ladies. High society from every angle, from peers to parents, teachers to outsiders, how it can make you almost feel suffocated to relax and unwind. Who might use this to blackmail you? How can you ever relax? You must keep working. But the music, from rock to metal, is the outlet. Play till you can't play no more. Yell at one another afterwards out of sheer, pure passion, and then share a bond that no one can take away from you. Rock is a lady's modesty, is the pure young adult finding themselves, trying to achieve a seemingly impossible goal with pressure from all sides, and finding an outlet in an unlikely place. The Too Perfect Saint, tossed away by my fiancé and sold to another kingdom. Titles aside, saints in this world are women who protect using their divine powers, which are passed down through writings and teachings. However, only very few can become saints, because they sort of need to be born into the right family. This might be a class thing, but it's not fully explained, at least not in the early episodes. Philia hails from a family renowned for producing generations of saints, and she is no exception. She is known to be one of the most powerful saints, so extraordinary gifted that many people find her insufferable. When even her fiancé, the second prince of the kingdom, decides that he can't stand her, he suddenly calls off their engagement with collusion from her parents. He's so eager to never see her again that he sells her off to a neighboring country in dire needs of their own saint. Now, Philia readies herself to face the unknown, fully expecting more miserable treatment. After all, she'd be a fool to expect anyone to welcome her with open arms, right? What does it mean to be rejected by loved ones? The kingdom you do everything for, and even its people. Philia worked tirelessly to help everybody, and yet, in every aspect, it's thrown back at her face, which she now, in turn, just believes to be normal. The only person that's ever shown any gratefulness towards her was her little sister, Mia, who is also gifted, but is also beloved by all. This is a story in which the royal family and Philia and Mia's parents are the quote-unquote bad guys. Meaning that now Filia is gone, how will things work now that Filia, the kingdom's workhorse, isn't here anymore to do everything she was doing? What void will be left? And what will Mia be expected to do now that that void has opened? Filia also has to adjust to a new environment. How will others handle her reserved nature combined with her unyielding tenacity toward her work? She insists on never wanting to be seen as lazy or not doing her part. All of this is part of the conditioning that she's experienced her whole life. How does someone realize that they are broken, but also how can they fix themselves and perhaps even to find to love themselves? This is that story. Zatsu, Tabi. That's the journey. If the Japanese tourism board made an anime, okay, they didn't, but if they had, they would struggle to make anything even a scratch as good as this. Frankly, when I travel around Japan, I'm absolutely returning to this show to add places to my own Google Maps, and I'm even doing it as I'm going through while watching the show. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Chika Suzuha is an 18-year-old manga artist. However, after winning an upcoming award, isn't having a lot of luck. Her last 3 drafts were rejected in one day, and her editor suggests that she looks to incorporate her interests, which is when it strikes her. She doesn't really have any, as she only thinks about manga. At her lowest point, she gets the urge to leave and explore, but doesn't really know where. So she makes a poll on social media with a vague north, south, east, and west, and goes to bed. The next day, her poll not only blew up in part thanks to her master reposting it, but it now means she has to go. There is no going back. She's got to travel, to go on a journey. But while she's going through all of this, despair, doubt, caution, fear, anxiety all slowly start to seep in. However, her desire to go on a journey commits her to pushing all of those negative emotions and putting a strong front to do something for herself. With no direction in mind outside of north of Tokyo and a random brochure she picked and decided on the final destination, Chika makes her way to Aizo. Within the show, countless locations are explored, sometimes multiple within each episode. Chika is that experience of being in a new place and not really knowing your way around it. You just take your headphones out and just slowly stroll to learn about a place. Perhaps with 1 or 2 places in vague mind, but otherwise it's that sheer rush of turning a new corner and learning something about a small town, big city, or just nook and cranny that nobody else knows. Learning about that place's history behind it, and really what makes the locals tick day in and day out. Whether you're big into traveling or not, you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of being able to use Chika as a vessel, as I said at the top, Google Map pins of places to visit when I'm next in Japan are exploding from this show alone. Countless small towns or places to an island I would have never have gone to, but now want to make a full day trip out of. The clear love for history of each location is showcased. The things that you see in the local hotel or shops are all given respect to shine in the best possible way. Truly, any tourism board would love this, both for locals to leave the city and to explore a bit more, and for tourists to take that odd day trip to a place they might never have considered. Kowloon, generic romance. In the distant future, those yearning for the old way of life, to live in the Kowloon walled city, a slum city with countless buildings stacked on top of one another, it lets those who long for Hong Kong of the past. Highly stylized, with romance and mystery blending together. A slow pacing which rewards you for paying exceedingly close attention to the very small details. That said, while deep on levels with the city and our characters, and how everything around them, but including themselves, evolves. Kowloon is a show I'm not going to give any more explanation to on its plot. Rather, it has a great deal of depth to dive into and to look at once it's all out. So look forward to that video and consider subscribing if you want to hear about that. But for now, it's a psychological mystery, and if that's a genre you enjoy, it's worth giving a shot. Each character has more faces than we see. What? How? Well, this isn't fully explained, or if it has, it's potentially open to interpretation. And it's also wrong for me to say how and why before you've watched. Aspects of what does it mean to be you? Can you change your way of thinking and leave a past self of you truly behind and become a new person within this concrete jungle? Will your mask ever slip away, or did you ever even have one to start with? While the science fiction aspect has only briefly been touched on, it's clear that Kowloon is a massive city that keeps countless in, and the outside world, it's almost its paradigm opposite. So why do people say? Are they stuck in a loop? Are these even questions that can be answered? Well, that's half of the fun of a show like this, and frankly, why I'm not going to say anything else. If you like a show that truly allows you to dive into these questions and to really think deeply about all of these and so much more, I implore you to watch it. It was also the show that at the time of me writing this was a lot less popular and has gained a lot of popularity over its last few episodes. So, well, I'm a bit late to this, but hey, it just shows it's a pretty good show. Food for the soul. Mako is an 18-year-old first-year university student. While she's not very social, and she does like to keep things relatively known and safe, she does have a passion, despite not having any friends. That passion? Food. She even follows a YouTuber named Makotoru and loves cooking for herself, but also visiting restaurants and eating all sorts of dishes and cuisine. However, she gets a little worried that she needs to try and make the most of her university life, but her social anxiety gets the better of her, and she can't even enter a restaurant despite attempting to several times. While eating her school lunch, suddenly, she feels a gaze. A gaze that turns into a stare, and then an approach from Shinon Okugawa, who was also eating her own lunch before running over and reintroducing herself as a friend of Mako's elementary school days. While a little uneasy at first, Shinon's infectious energy leads to the introduction of Kureha Furutachi and Susuji Haga, and the founding of the Food Culture Research Club. So, the good question is, what are the stakes? And what's the core beat that keeps things going? Well, it's not a lot. It's a simple slice-of-life university show about a group of young women slowly connecting over the bond of enjoying food, exploring, and frankly just growing together. They travel around, connect over studying, working together, and all in all, just making new friends. Pure and simple. In an era where having a third space is so hard to come by, these university students create a club and create that space for them to feel free to express who they are to one another. They goof off and have real moments of connection. It's wonderful to see the progression of the characters slowly coming out of their individual shells to have these human moments, these vulnerabilities, and yet connections of exposing who they really are. The good and the bad, the highs and the lows, and to see one another for who they really are. I'll also give Mono an honorable mention, as it's very similar in tone, just dealing with a slightly younger age bracket. But these are the shows that I believe you might have seen a clip from, or saw floating around the ether within the anime fandom. But if you've not checked them out, I've given you a real mix from 2 shows about coming of age but just vastly different, to a science fiction mystery with a hint of romance, to a fantasy about saints who can save the world, and to top it all off, if the Japanese tourism board could make an anime without any bureaucratic nonsense. Are there any shows that you think are being underappreciated? Perhaps you really want to shout out a show similar to these, but it does it better. Let me know though in the comments section down below. But with that all said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.